All right, this is the regular virtual board meeting of August 18, 2020, and we'll call the meeting to order at 6:02. If we can have the calling of the roll, please, Madam Secretary. I'm sorry, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun on that. So if we could all stand and do the pledges of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag
of the
of
United
the United States of
of
America
America
and to the republic
for
for
which
which
it
it stands,
stands, one nation,
nation,
under
under God,
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 indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice for
for
all.
all.
All right, now we can call the roll, please.
Mr. Carter?
Hi. Mr. Carter, you are on mute.
Maybe we'll get him at the end,
Okay,
maybe.
Mr. Robleski, he's on mute.
Here.
Martin here. Brooks,
I'm here.
Mrs. Williams,
Here.
Mrs. Washington,
Here.
and we'll go back to Mr. Carter.
Okay, maybe we can double check later in the meeting, see if he's there. Moving on to the, what is the mission of Baldwin Community Schools? Preparing students
Preparing the
students
students
for the
promise
promise of tomorrow. Thank you. The purpose of the open board meeting. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public, which is right now online, for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for the public's participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. So F, we have consent agenda items. First is the approval of the agenda, the approval of the minutes of the organizational and regular session of July 21st, 2020, approval of the minutes of the special meeting of August 10th, 2020, approval of the bills to be paid, starting with the general check fund account 74114 to 74170, food service account check 5033, Baldwin Promise Authority check number 1299 to 1302. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So move.
It's been moved by Mr.
Support.
Brooks, supported by Mr. Robleski. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. We'll move on to principal reports. Mr. Mangum, would you like to go first?
Sure. So, we've been hard at work. We spent 2 days with professional learning with EL Education, who are our new ELA curriculum resource, and had all of our teaching staff in for 2 days with that, and followed that up the next week with some essential standards and identifying power standards in the curriculum for this year to make sure that we're hitting all those pieces that are of uber importance to our students at each grade level with My Excel. So we did an additional 2 days with all staff, K through 12, with My Excel around that training. And then wrapped up last week with 2 days of intense Google Classroom training and Google and technology training with Mr. Chad Riffle from the K-12 ETA. So our teachers have been hard at work, and I'm sure Mr. Cornwell will speak into that as well.
right, thank you. Is there any questions or comments to what Mr. Mangum presented? Okay, we'll move on to secondary.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'll definitely second what Mr. Mangum had to say. It was 4 days last week of very intense professional development. Being in person is one thing. Being virtual for 7.5 hours at a time. And I know for the Google part of it, they were changing gears every 15 minutes and had assignments due in 15 minutes. And here's the next thing, go do it, try it. They should be much better prepared for this fall than they were able to be in the spring. We spent today getting ready for packet pickup tomorrow and Wednesday, or tomorrow and Thursday. It's from 9 to 3 behind the high school. We have packets, we have schedules, we have flash drives with start of school year information and materials on it, Chromebooks for those kids that didn't have them this summer, and lots of logistics coming together rather smoothly so far. I'm cautiously optimistic for the next 2 days. And I wanted to fill you in that our secondary ELA teachers are finally getting their professional learning on the new curriculum. It's taken some hoop jumping and rescheduling, but they did 4 hours today and they've got 2 more on Thursday. So hopefully they'll be ready to go next week with their new ELA curriculum. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
And that's district wide, right? So elementary will also be distributing their stuff at the same
Yep.
time.
District wide.
Okay. Any other questions or comments to Mr. Cornwell's report? Okay, if not, then community items. So right now is the opportunity for if there have any community members connected to, now will be their time to address the board. Okay, we have no comments online. So at this time, we have an educational review. So if is there a motion to enter into closed session at 6:09 for the educational review of student 15885?
I make a motion, we enter in a closed session for student 15885.
I second.
It's been motion
I'll support.
It's been motion and seconded. It's been motioned by Mr. Robleski and second by Mr. Brooks to enter into closed session for educational review of student 15885. Ms. Mary, can you do a roll call vote right quick?
You're on mute.
You're mute, ma'am.
Sorry. Mr. Carter. Mr. Robleski.
Yes.
Mrs. Peasky. Martin.
Yes.
Martin. Mr. Brooks.
Aye.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
And Mrs. Washington.
Yes. All right. So we are now in, we're now in closed session.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Trent. So is there a motion regarding the reinstatement of student 15885?
I recommend we reinstate student number 15885, reinstate her immediately, effective right now.
Support.
It's been motioned by Mr. Brooks to reinstate student 15885 effective today, August 18th, 2020. It was supported by Mr. Robleski. Are any questions or comments to the vote, to the motion? Roll call vote, please.
You're on mute, Mary.
Try again. Mr. Carter. Mr. Robleski.
Yes.
Mrs. Peasky.
Yes.
Martin, yes. Mr. Brooks.
Aye.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
And Mrs. Washington.
Aye. Motion carried. Ms. Hannah, welcome back. Congratulations. And you can either tomorrow or Thursday between 9 and 3 p.m. Come to the school and pick up all your information that you'll need to start the remote learning school year.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
guys so
much.
much.
You're welcome. If you have any
Hannah,
questions, please feel
Hannah,
free
before
to
you
call.
go, I would suggest Thursday that you stop in and get those materials. That'll give Mr. Nason a chance to make a schedule for you tomorrow.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. I gotta get to my agenda.
I don't think so.
Okay, we're at discussion items.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Item A is middle school and high school course catalogs for 2020, 2021. We needed to make an adjustment to those course catalogs so they state that classes may be in person or remote. That is the current expectation of Michigan law with the bills that were passed Saturday and Monday. That may change, but at this point, it's what's expected. So you have our course catalog and all courses. We put a disclaimer in there that they may be virtual or face-to-face. Tax levies. We do this annually, but I will defer to Mr. Forrester if he has anything he would like to add.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Heitmeyer.
Good evening.
Essentially, each year we have to set the tax levy for our debt. As we know, our debt will go through 2023. It's for the elementary building. So based on the calculations, property tax values, a millage of, or a levy of 1.24 mils is required to satisfy that loan obligation for the 2020 fiscal year. So that's the debt fund. The operating millage is 18 mils. That's the maximum that can be levied, and that's what we would be levying this year.
It's 18 mils.
18 mils. Yep.
Mr. Forrester, do you want to continue on to resolution authorizing the issuance of notes?
Sure. Were there any questions on the establishing the debt levy? Okay, so each year we issue notes, a loan essentially, to get us through until we begin receiving our property tax revenue. And in part, we do this because we don't receive state aid, so most schools start receiving state aid in October. And secondly, we also don't do a summer levy. We only do a winter levy, which means that we begin collecting tax revenue sometime after December 1st. So this year we're looking at approximately $1.4 million And just so you know, there are a couple of critical pieces of information. One is that this will go out to bid, and banks are able to respond to those basically the RFP, but we are not allowed. In some instances, we can look at bids as they come in and sort through them and not necessarily pick the lowest bid if we have other criteria that we're using. But in this case, we have to take or accept the bid that will result in the lowest interest payment over the loan term. So this is something that's out of our hands. I will send letters out once the board approves this, I will send letters out to banks, and then the lowest interest rate essentially will be awarded the bonds.
Okay. Who do we have them with right now?
Typically, it's Lake Osceola State Bank. Occasionally, West Shore Bank. There have been times when West Shore Bank has also bid, and they have won. I think that in many occasions, just an FYI, they actually share them. So one will win, and then they'll sell them to the other bank. So they actually split that.
Okay.
Forster,
Yes.
when the RFPs go out, are they told that the one with the lowest interest, or you just kind of take it when it comes in?
So they know that, they are aware. The letters go out inviting them to bid, and they are aware that the lowest bidder will win, will essentially be issued those bonds. So does that answer the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Forrester,
Yes.
what banks are we using? Or are you sending the letters out to? Which banks are you?
So
engaging?
Lake Osceola State Bank, West Shore
Well,
Bank,
Mhm.
Fifth Third Bank, and PNC Bank. Those are the banks that we have typically used. I mean, I will tell you that there's not a lot of money in this for banks. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that, most times Lake Osceola State Bank is the only bank that bids, and I think they do it because they're a local partner of ours. So, again, they're not making much money off this. Our interest, depending on the rates and the market, is anywhere between $5,000 and $12,000 is what the interest payment is for us. And so that's almost it's about a 9-month term. So, again, they're not making a lot of money off this. So, West Shore, actually there have been banks that have contacted me after the letters go out, and they basically say, we would love to do this, but we don't make much money off this, and we only have a certain amount of dollars allocated to it, and we've already spent those dollars. So
Thank you.
you're
Thank you.
welcome.
Mhm.
All right, item D is a resolution granting the superintendent powers in 2020, 2021. This is similar to what we did back in April. Neola is recommending doing this again as we enter a school year where there are many unknowns. I believe that the language is the same as it was in April. Can everybody hear?
We can hear you.
Okay, mine went totally silent. I was a little weirded out by that. Any questions or thoughts on item D? All right, item E is a proposal to replace all outdoor lights to LED. I think this started with a couple of lights, and we started to look into it. Mr. Forrester, do you want to talk about this one too?
Sure. Yeah, we currently have 11 lights out in the parking lot, and we tried to replace the bulbs. Mike Anderson and his crew tried to replace those bulbs, and what he found was that the lights still didn't work. So the lamps inside are bad, and So we asked for 3 different bids, which, you know, you have the document, but one was to repair the lamps as they are and use the same type of bulb. And the other one was to repair those lamps, but use LED bulbs. And then the third option was to go full LED, which is the option that we're really, you know, that we're bringing to you tonight. Those bulbs are, you know, in theory, they last for about 7 years. Of course, that depends on the use. But this certainly will make sure that our parking lot lights are, you know, are up to date and are working properly. And, you know, it won't be something where it does become quite an inconvenience when the parking lot lights go out, because obviously you can't just, you know, climb the pole and change it. You have to, you know, get a lift in. And so this is we felt like this was a good option. And I can also tell you that Axiom, Dave Mraz, the owner of Axiom, offered to pay $2,000 of this amount, because he said that normally he would do this work, or they would do this work, and he would rent a lift, and that's how much it would cost him to rent a lift. So he was contributing $2,000 to this amount.
It's good. It's nice of him. Okay.
A quick question. Mr. Forster,
Yes.
now, if you do go with the LED option, which I'm assuming the board will vote for, is there anything usable as far as, you know, the lights, or does everything, including the lamp stand, have to be replaced? I'm having a hard time finding that out in the bid.
Well, actually, you know what? That is a good question. I mean, obviously, you know, I looked at the bid as it was presented, but you know, I don't know the answer to that question. And I honestly, I didn't even know to ask that question, I suppose, but I certainly can get that information. I can ask them after the board approves this. I certainly can go in, and this would be a maximum amount. So obviously what we would be doing is we would be, you know, replacing this, but I certainly can talk to them about, you know, about the possibility of being able to reuse anything. And, you know, if that results in a lower cost for us, then that would be the option we would pick.
Right. Okay. All right.
Am I muted? No.
Nope.
Okay. Are there any other questions regarding any of the discussion items that was presented? I'm gonna scroll right through my agenda right quick. So if anyone has any questions or comments about anything. Okay. Let me get back. So we'll move on down to the action item. So for resolutions, is that approval or adopt, or to adopt?
Adopt.
Adopt.
And those do require a roll call vote.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Ms. Washington, you skipped over community items.
Thank you, Mrs. Robinson. So now we have our last community communication at this time. And there are none. So we'll run into action items here. Get back to my agenda. So middle school, high school course catalog for 2020-2021 school year. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the middle school and high school course catalogs for 2020 and 2021 school year.
Support.
It's been motion by Mr. Robleski, supported by Mr. Brooks to approve the course handbooks. Are there any questions or comments to the motion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried. What about for the tax levies?
You just
That's
have to
what I'm
approve
thinking.
those.
Approve it, and I'll do a roll call vote. So can we approve, is there a motion to approve the tax levy levies information as it was presented?
Make a motion, we approve the tax levies information as presented.
It's been motioned by Mrs. Peasky,
Second.
second by Mrs. Williams. Any questions or comments to the motion? Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call vote?
Sure. Mr. Robleski,
Yes.
Mr. Carter, I do see him on. Okay, Mrs. Peasky,
Yes.
Martin, yes. Mr. Brooks,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Mrs. Washington.
Aye. Motion carry. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance of notes?
I make a motion that we adopt the resolution regarding the issuance of notes.
A motion by Mr. Robleski,
I'll second.
seconded by Mrs. Peasky. Any questions or comments to the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Carter, Mr. Robleski,
Yes.
Mrs. Peasky,
Yeah. Yes.
Martin, yes. Mr. Brooks,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
and Mrs. Washington.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution granting the superintendent, I want to say COVID-19 powers during the 2020 to 21 school year as recommended by Neola?
I make a motion that we adopt the resolution granting superintendent COVID-19 powers for the school year of 2021 by Neola.
It's been motioned by Mr. Brooks,
I'll support.
supported by Mrs. Peasky. Any questions or comments to the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Sure. Mr. Carter, Mr. Robleski,
Yes.
Mrs. Peasky,
Yes.
Martin, yes. Mr. Brooks, Mr. Brooks,
Sorry, aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
and Mrs. Washington.
Aye. Thank you. And E, is there a motion to approve the proposal to replace all outdoor lights to LED? And we're going to find out whether or not, for Mr. Brooks's question about, did you ask about the whole unit?
The lamp poles.
No,
Do we
I
need to
think
put that
I
in there?
saw, yeah, I think I saw replacing of the stands in the quote, and I was just wondering if there's anything that is there that can be used if it's necessary for the stands to be replaced as well.
Okay. So is there a motion to replace, a proposal to replace all outdoor lights to LED, and the company is Windmuller?
Correct.
I'll introduce
I make a
a,
motion that we, go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Williams.
okay, I'll introduce a motion to accept or approve the proposal to replace all outdoor LED lights for the, I don't know, Winder Mueller.
It's been motioned by Mrs. Williams to accept the proposed proposal. Is there a second?
Support.
I'll second.
Support by Mr. Robleski. Is there any questions or comments to the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, superintendent items.
All right. Well, as you probably know, the Senate met Saturday to vote on some legislation regarding back to school. The House voted Monday to approve that, and from what we understand, that legislation is probably on the governor's desk or getting close. So far, from what we can tell, it is in favor of some flexibility during remote learning times. We like that has that flexibility, especially with relating to kids checking in and getting into their online classes, completing packets and those kind of things. We are ourselves and working with the ESD and reading from the different groups that we belong to, trying to decipher what everything means, because in a couple of the bills there is some contradictory information. But overall, I do believe that it's pretty supportive of schools. The one thing that I told 9 and 10 when I talked to them yesterday is it would have been nice if we'd have had this legislation back in June when we got the return to learn guidelines from the governor. That would have been helpful, and I think it would have helped guide some other districts' decisions maybe. I think that with the choices that we made and the board approved last week, I think that this legislation is helpful for us. So there'll be more to come on it. I'm sure we'll be deciphering it. Just with pupil accounting alone, Mrs. Robinson had a 3-hour meeting yesterday and at least a 2-hour meeting today. And at the superintendent workshop tomorrow, we're going to be working with Ms. Mule from the ESD as well to try to get some further clarification. But overall, I think the legislation is going to be helpful to schools. So just wish it would have been sooner. Again, I'll reiterate what the principal said. Tomorrow and Thursday from 9 to 3, we have pickup for packets, Chromebooks, flash drives. At the elementary, there's some backpacks going out. There's all kinds of things that are going to be happening. We're going to have the setup similar to summer lunch and breakfast pickup, so we're familiar with that routine. And we've spread it out over 2 days with lots of hours, so we're hoping that we don't necessarily have a ton of people all at once, but they come as they need to pick up things. So spread that word. We've robocalled it a few times, been on Facebook, it's been on the website. So hopefully people will get that message and be able to come pick up some stuff. We're very excited about the start of the school year and looking forward to it. Today we had a discussion with Joe Powers from Wolgast and Dave Moore from IDI to kind of get an idea of where we might want to go as we get talking about a bond project again. What I would really like to do is get the board together in person to have a workshop that would focus really entirely on a potential bond. And I struggle with doing an online workshop. I guess if we get too far down the line, we can look to do that. But I'm hoping maybe in October we could get together in person and really have a good discussion about where we want to go. With the future of the school, with building and whatever that might look like. Um, the Right now, with the executive orders, we can't have more than 10 people together in a room. We'll see if over the next 6 weeks or so that changes, and maybe we could get together in person in October. But I want to keep that in front of us and keep thinking about where we're going and what it is that we need to do, because our needs haven't gone away. Even though we're not necessarily using the building right now for students, we have had a couple of pipe leaks lately and a rather large one in the high school. So these type of things are going to continue to happen, and we know that. So a lot to think about, and just start thinking about that, and hopefully soon we can get together and really talk about where it is we want to go with that. Yeah. Overall, just thanks for all the support and all the feedback. These are crazy times, and everybody has been putting in a lot of time and a lot of dedication to make sure we're ready to educate kids. And I'll tell you, when we talked about moving it back 2 weeks, that seemed like plenty of time, and now that time is here. So Monday we go live. Friday afternoon, the new website will go live, and so we're excited. We've got a lot of good things going right now, and can't wait to open next week. So that's Mr. Heitmeyer's report for tonight.
Do we have a plan for families that can't pick up between 9:30 and 3 on Wednesday and Thursday? Is there any option for Friday or?
We haven't put that out there yet, but anybody who can't, we will definitely work with to make sure they get what they need.
Okay. And then when you talk about remote flexibility, which you probably are not sure yet, does that mean how many hours a day
Yeah,
the kids have to be?
it
Okay.
relates to how many check-ins they have to do. There's a
Okay.
couple different versions out there. I believe that it's 2 check-ins a week at least. We're shooting for way more than that, but for those who we have struggled to reach in the past, if they were to check in a couple times, then we could count them towards doing their work. So those are some of the things we're waiting for further clarification on, because there's one version that's out there that says a couple of check-ins a month, and there's no way that I think that would really equate to a quality education. But it allows for overall just some flexibility in how many times they have to check in, how much time we may need to be online for them, and again, we're waiting for further clarification on that, but so far it looks like it supports what we're trying to do.
Okay. And with the further pupil accounting meetings, is that the group that'll determine like attendance and how we are to determine attendance, or is attendance going to be determined by this flexibility of these 2 to 3 check-ins?
A combination of all of that, but what they're
Okay.
trying to do really is disaggregate all the information. They've been talking to MPAAA, which is that organization, trying to get some further guidance on what all of this actually means. So it would have been nice to have more time to try to figure it all out, but we have it now, and
Right.
it supports what we're trying to do, so that's good. It's just going to take a few days to understand everything that's there.
Okay.
If I could add something, Sean, that I think is very interesting, is our count is in October, and what we're doing this year is 75% of our count will be from fall of 19 and 25% will
Oh,
be from this year. So it's going to be really interesting to figure it out.
yeah, it will be. Okay. Any other questions or anything from Mr. Heitmeyer for his report? Are there any board member items, questions, comments? Well, did somebody was about to say something? I don't want to cut anybody off.
Yes. I again, I want to apologize for not being at the last meeting. I was just wondering if I could get some data from perhaps Mr. Heitmeyer. I know we sent out some surveys. Do you know how many surveys that were sent out, Mr. Heitmeyer?
We've sent out a number of surveys, but the survey that helped to drive our remote learning decision was sent out in July, and the results of that survey, we had about 200 students represented. 72% of our families preferred remote learning, and about 27% preferred in-person learning.
Okay, so was that 70% of the total surveys, or is it 70% of the surveys that came in? That's what I'm trying to find out. If we sent out 200 surveys, did 70% of that 200 come in?
We sent that out. We had it on Facebook, on the website. We got it out as many ways as we could. We had it on a robocall 3 or 4 different times, and we had 200 students represented in responses.
Okay.
So anybody in the community could have taken the survey.
Okay, so 200 students out of our total students.
Yeah, about 40% of our students were represented.
All right. Okay. All right, and then 70% of those. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Any other questions
Thank you.
or comments? You're welcome. Well, we want to wish Mr. Heitmeyer, Mr. Mangum, and Mr. Cornwell and Mr. Forrester a great first day of school on August 24th. I'll probably see you all either tomorrow or Thursday, whatever day. My kiddo will come by and pick up her belongings. But I want to say wish you all a good remote learning school year. A lot of hard work has gone into getting us here. And once again, I just want to thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Carter and Mrs. Peasky for meeting with us today to kind of have some discussion. And we'll have some further discussion as Mr. Heitmeyer spoke about, hopefully in October. So if that is all, then we can entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:57.
I'll introduce the motion that we adjourn the meeting at 6:57.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, everyone. Well, have a good evening.
All right.
Thank you.